Hey guys, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Leah and I'm a collage artist. If you guys have been around for a while, you saw my last collab with Andrew from Reissued, where we tackled being inspired by each other's art and making a piece from it. Because that one went so well, we always had it in the back of our minds to do another one. A couple of months ago, Andrew was doing his bedroom renovation and he asked for a custom-sized print for an old vintage frame. Because I was sending that anyways, I decided to throw in a collage kit and he got the idea to do another collaboration where he'll be using the collage kit. Now, and if you don't know Andrew, you're gonna love his channel. Right now he's tackling an entire home renovation. He's very into the thrifting like I am, and his art is absolutely stunning. So if you don't know him already, you definitely have to go check him out. So we decided to do another collaboration because it went so well last time, and we're also gonna do a live stream, so look forward to that. So we're both gonna take the time to really think of what would Andrew do or what would Leah do and create a project from that. And if we're gonna live in a world of Andrew, I think we need to go do something, and that's
thrifting! Woo!
So on this trip, we're actually looking for a couple different things. I was inspired by Andrew being a DIYer and wanted to see what I could find in regards to some other home projects I have. And for today, that started with looking for some frames. For the last little bit, I've been trying to find some medium-sized frames, and this area, although it has a ton, do not have the medium-sized frames that I was looking for. But I did grab this little one. I was really liking the shell-colored edges. And at this store at the far end in the clothing rack, they actually have these massive frames, and wow, these frames were incredible. I'm sure someone quite bloated had these frames in their homes. They were way too big for what I was looking for, but I couldn't resist looking at them anyway. And then I saw these books, which are the ones that I actually learned to read from, which is so funny. And this book was just like very incredible to see, like all the different Renaissance paintings, the ceilings, all that. I was very inspired by it. I'm now feeling a bit discouraged. I wasn't able to find what I was really looking for at this store, and there wasn't really like a great project that stood out for me. I couldn't decide if it was that or because I had the pressure that this was a reveal for Andrew as well.
So I didn't find anything there, so I'm gonna try a different store that I've never been to, so wish me luck.
I then walked into the next store, and honestly, I hit the jackpot. This place had the perfect size frames for what I was looking for. The print I have was roughly about 16 by 20, and I actually forgot my measuring tape, but I definitely recommend if you're a thrifter to always bring your measuring tape with you. But there was like a lot of great options, and this one, I think that this one's gotta be it. Okay, so we got a piece here and it looks amazing and I'm really happy with it. When I went online to look for frames like this, they were like hitting the $100 mark, and most of them didn't even have the glass in the frame. It was like something you had to put together after. Versus this one I was able to get for $15, so $14.99, but it's gonna need some work. It's definitely very dusty, so we're gonna work through and clean it, and then we're gonna open up the back. I'm really happy with this piece. I even really like the color of the matting in the background, so maybe I don't really think that the piece that I have is gonna fit, but I do think that it's really nice, so maybe we'll be able to use it somewhere else. It's kind of inspiring me to think about like what the matting could be on this frame. I'm no stranger to framing, so I got myself one of these, and honestly, I love it. I highly recommend it. I got it off Amazon. Pretty sure it's linked in my storefront, so if you want it, you can go take a look. Comes in pink and blue. A lot of people just use a screwdriver to get out these staples, but honestly, this works so well. Like, I think this was like pretty cheap too. Highly recommend everyone having one of these in their house. Now that we have the frame like this, and we have our print, we're able to see that I think this is a really good size for it. Now, I know how hard it can be to do framing, and so that's why for my prints I do all standard. but not all artists do. This one, for example, I got from Lee Ellison. I spent an arm and a leg for it, but I absolutely love it. I don't know who she prints with, but oh my goodness, the colors are insane. And it really looks like a real painting. If you're someone like me who loves vintage frames, they can be so hard to frame with as well, because these aren't standard size either. I don't know if framing used to be very inexpensive, and that's why there's so many weird sizes, because it feels like there's a lot of weird custom frames. But for us regular folk, it can be really difficult to find things, and that's why I rely on matting. Matting is a great way to buy an old frame that is a way better quality than ones that you can find online, and then make a print that you already have fit to what you need. I find that this can be a much more inexpensive way to do it, and as I said, with vintage frames, you're getting a much higher quality frame most of the time. This one is definitely not made of plastic the way a lot of them are today. And the glass is not plexiglass, it's actual glass, which I love. So we have our print, and how are we supposed to get this into this frame? Well, I'll show you how. Firstly, I'm gonna measure the width and length of the frame and make sure that this is exactly the size of the glass. So for me, this piece is 19 by 23. Then you're gonna take your print and you're gonna measure the part that you wanna keep inside of it. Since this one is signed and has an edition number, I wanted to make sure that that stays outside of it, so I gave it an extra inch. Now we're just gonna do some really quick computer work. I'm gonna show you a website that I really like. The website that I use for my custom matting is actually called custommat.ca. So on this website, I like to go to our mat boards, custom mat boards. We need it to be 19 by 23. And then we have to put in here our window option. And this is gonna be 13.5 by 19. I'm worried about picking another color, but I think it could be kind of fun, right? Like having this like really nice, beautiful piece, having some inlays, and especially with the frame being like gold, could be kind of cool. As I said, like the frames online were so expensive, so getting something like this could be an option for you. Or if I just want to be cheap, this one definitely works. It fits. I feel like the blues are kind of highlighted in it, but it's definitely cutting off like part of the picture. Wait, but why does this kind of work? Oh no, now we have more decisions to make. So while I'm deciding, I've just put a big piece of cardboard on here and I'm gonna flatten it while I decide if this is gonna be the route we go. And now for the main event, which I'm the most excited about. I looked for one of these all online for a vintage version, couldn't really find one. So this one's actually from Amazon. It had the best price and it was the right size for what I was looking for. But I absolutely love this idea that we're gonna dive into right now. So we're going to be collaging with a ceiling medallion, which I'm extremely excited to see because I don't think I've seen anyone else do this with collage. Anyways, the possibilities are endless, so why don't we dive into it? I think where I want to start with this is by actually looking through magazines and kind of trying to get a concept and find a couple pieces that are actually going to work with it before painting it. I want to start here and see if there's anything that I'd like to use first. So if you remember earlier in the thrift store today, we were looking at the Renaissance book, and honestly, that was like kind of amazing because it helped me get some inspiration for this. As I was looking at those photos, it's, showing all the different stories of Jesus, the cross, the crucifix, all those different types of things, and like the male storyline of this Bible. And it got me thinking about like what the things that like maybe this is something that I cherish potentially, or something that I worship could be the thing that's a part of this medallion. I think there's so many directions that this could go in, and it could be a really interesting, maybe series project. I wonder if we could make this more of like a mythology, women worship piece, and I think that that's honestly where I would love it to go if I can make that happen. Maybe you guys remember my trip from Thailand last year. I was able to go to Chiang Rai and see the white temple, the black temple, and the blue temple. These temples were insane, and the whole concept around it was our worship of like modern media. So maybe that's kind of where this is coming from, or maybe I can pull some inspiration from there. The idea was taking something that was religious and old and making it new. And it was about the worship of like modern media, and I thought that was really interesting. So now that we've looked at some inspiration and gotten some reflection done from our past experiences, how can we make this into something that is inspired by the past, but brings the idea into the future that, celebrates who we are today? I could definitely see having like one of these on each one, like the grapes like kind of coming out and over, some cherries, the pineapples may be too big, but like a peach and a pear. And that would be for each section. Where I'm trying to decide on this one is this a piece that's supposed to mean something, or are we just trying to make something pretty? I got these as well from a collage paper swap. They're so cute. There's two sides for this one, but I could also just do like these kind of simple like birds and flowers and then like paint the rest, maybe keep this white and then have them in it. I also have something like the floras where we just literally could put flowers on it. Something in me is telling me that we haven't quite hit the mark yet though, so I want to keep looking. Problem is that I'm looking at my paper piles and my bookshelf, and there's not really a real big tug of where I should start. Given this is like a house thing, I wonder if I should take like some old home magazines. Kind of just went with my gut and grabbed these. They're Canadian Home Journal. I feel like these ones are super rare. They're definitely a little bit waterlogged, so they're not in great condition, but that means that there could just be some little pieces in them that are. But I was also thinking about like the idea of like the godly sealings and how they were supposed to be like tales of the Bible and that sort of thing. And what if we kind of rewrote history a little bit and just made them women? I think could be honestly like, it's pretty simple just having them doing their own thing, but like, what if we just took like women not doing stuff like this, but actually like enjoying themselves, like this one? I also have all of these ones, and I know that they're kind of a little bit like, you know, that one would get cut off a lot, but there is like the right look and feel. Like, I wonder if this one, like, we could just put like their head like that and have them kind of like coming off of the edge of it. I think I'm definitely going to need more, but I think for now it's good. Like, we have some really interesting poses. I feel like this on an angle could be really cool. I'm not sure if this woman will work, but even just cutting a little bit. I am kind of worried though that I'm leaning towards kind of a different meaning than I'm hoping for, which is like beauty ideology of having like all these like only young white women. So I think I need to look through like a lot more stuff. And I think that this is going to be one of those projects that take a long time for the sourcing. So while we're finding more photos, I figured we could get ahead with the painting. I think we want to stick to more warm, like springy colors. Just based off the inspiration I have, I feel like that's the direction that I'm looking to go for. So I think the majority of this is going to be like light pink edges, with the main part being like a light green. If you didn't know, I took an abstract art course last year, so I have a lot of paint, and I did learn a lot of technique about the different colors. That said, I'm a little rusty on which one of these blues and yellows are going to make the best green for what I'm looking for, so we're going to mix a whole bunch up and see what happens. I decided to mix in this lovely pink color and realized that the two together actually looked really good, and because it has it in it, it means that the undertone will be kind of matching. So I think that that's the color that we're gonna go with for the other color on this. I then mixed a little bit of water into this color, and as you can see, that was a big no-no for this piece. I think because the medallion came primed, there's already something on it, maybe an oil-based thing, so it wasn't sticking to it. So I had to mix a little bit more paint, and this paint went a long way. I barely have a lot of paint, if you can see on the side. It's not a lot, but I was able to do so much coverage. I used to paint all the time, like all the time, just as much as collaging, but I haven't been in the past, and this really just reminded me of what I love about it. It sucks that I have such a small studio now. It's hard to have like paint going and collage going at the same time, but I was just like loving the process going through this, and it was very therapeutic. It was very hard to like know what to do next, because paint, you can't really go back. At least with collage, you can put it down and remove it after, but this one was more of a permanent project feel. I think for where I'm at now, I could either add like a lighter blue, so probably take like this color, just add more white on it and kind of do like these areas. And then maybe this part. There are ones that keep the white too, and I do like the white as well. I'm just wondering if like maybe this border needs to be the pink as well. So you can see I lightly dusted the pink, like ever so slightly on everything else. And I just wonder if I should go in with like the blue and just add like these teeny tiny details, just like a little layer on top of everything, and maybe like in between here. I don't know. I think it's a little risky, but I want to try it. So up next I have two options. I might actually end up using both of them. And it's definitely like more of a brownie tone. And this liquid leaf is definitely very gold in comparison. And I wonder if we could put like some of this down and then have this over it just to add like some depth to it. Not to be biased, but I'm definitely loving this. I'm at the point where I'm like, oh God, I wish I hadn't agreed to do the collage part on this because I really like it the way it is. But I still think that there is like abilities to do little tiny vignettes in here, maybe around the circle. So now that the medallion is painted for the most part, I'm gonna go ahead and start cutting out some of those pieces that we started with at the very beginning. Although we had birds, mushrooms, flowers, these fruits were really standing out to me, and there's something about them being the first thing on the top of the pile that just felt like a little bit of fate. And these were definitely some hard pieces to cut out. Oh my goodness. If you're new to collage, I highly recommend getting this book. It's called Extraordinary Things to Cut Out in Collage, and it just has such a great library of things if you want like different categories. Sometimes it can be really hard to find what you're looking for in collage, right? Especially with paper collage. You can't search it on the internet. So with this, I always head to my book and I like to put other pieces in that kind of match the same style in the different pages, so that if I'm looking for something like flowers, for example, I can just go in here and look for them. At the start, we were looking at different fruits, and I just wanted to kind of stick with that theme. I love the idea of like the Renaissance fruits are always so like rich and full, but there's definitely a second part of it that I wanted to add to it. As we talked about previously in the Bible and such, we are always celebrating men, so I wondered if we could make a version that felt like the Renaissance, but it was a version of celebrating women. I love the idea of rewriting the story of the Garden of Eden and it only having women in it for the entirety of the world, and what if men have never entered it and what that would look like, and that's kind of the idea that I'm going off of here. So now that we have our fruits, we need to find our ladies that go with them. And honestly, who worships women more than Playboy? It's going to sound really funny and controversial potentially. I think that from an outside perspective, if you haven't read one, I feel like they feel like an offensive place to be. But some of the articles, I'm not saying all of them, but definitely a lot of them were way ahead of their time. They're like very feminist. So I think we actually need to head to my Playboy stash to find some fun little ladies that could work here. Okay, so now this is where I'm at, and this is the pieces that I have all together. There's definitely a lot more that I could add, and so I'm wondering if maybe something like this. I have little spaces here. I have like, I could add like a little flower. I mean, these could also go up here. We could add a couple flowers around the edge. I also have like leaves that we could put in just to fill in these like kind of tiny gaps. And I do have like a couple like little apples as well and stuff. And I think that this actually really adds to it. So I'm just going to fill in like the smaller holes. I think how I'm going to move through this is firstly by grabbing my matte medium. This is my favorite one. It's by Golden. I love like the thickness of it. It's not too thick, but it still does like very good coverage. It's not watery.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you, Leah?
Good. So good to see you. I'm so excited to see everything that you've done this week.
I'm excited to see what you've done as well. I don't really know what to expect because we sort of talked about, like, I know you're working on a thrifted piece. You know that I'm working with your collage kit, but that could go a lot of different places. So I'm excited to share with you what I've done and to see what you do.
Yeah, we left it pretty open-ended this time, which is honestly pretty fun. So I think it'll be kind of cool to see what we're going to get up to.
Yeah.
I guess, do you want to go first? Or do you want me to go first?
I feel like you went first last time. So if I want to reveal to you first, that would be great.
Yeah, for sure. Okay.
So as I was putting things down, I would notice like, I don't know, for instance, like the woman's head that's behind his head, I would like, I had just sort of laid it in there underneath. But then before I actually glued it down, I was like, that's precious magazine. We need that. So I would like tear away the excess and then like find little things. Like,
and yeah, they're so interesting. And you've definitely joined, I guess, the hoarding of collage material club.
Yeah, I have.
I started with this bin of like my like scraps that I was like, oh, this is a cool scrap. That's a cool scrap. And then all of a sudden it's like the bin is now full. And I'm like, what are we going to do next? Like,
all right. Are you ready for me to see your work?
I am. I'm so
excellent.
excited.
All right, let me open it up here.
But yeah, with my week, basically, I was kind of joking that I was calling it like, what would Andrew do in like the week, basically. So we started off by going thrifting, obviously. Like, how could it be a day without Andrew and not thrifting?
It's so true.
Got a frame and we were able to frame this piece. And I was trying to show like the matting and all of that part of it. And then I realized that the matting that was already in the frame, I ended up like absolutely loving with the piece. So it was funny that I actually ended up using the matting, which was great.
Oh, wow. You're right. I think keeping the matte that's there was a really good call. It's not a color that I would have thought to go with the piece, but that's to me the beauty of vintage and thrifted finds is that sometimes, like, especially with color, it pushes you to places that you wouldn't ordinarily go. So that's very cool.
Isn't it cool? Yeah. I was like, oh, like a colored mat is kind of cool. Like, I know that you did like the fabric mats and all that. So, you know, I was thinking about that as a possibility as well. Like I looked at the fabrics and I was like, oh, none of these are going to work. But then like that actual frame itself, like ended up looking like so well with it. It does cut off like a part of the picture, but I was like, you know what? I love the color with like, it brings out the blueness in it. And I
it does.
Like, love that about it.
Wow. Yeah, it's so funny too how like certain trends come around where I feel like, I don't know, 5 years ago, if you'd like told me that a colored mat was going to be a thing in my house ever, I'd be like, no, that's so tacky. It's awful. But I feel like we've come around again. I like a colored mat. Am I crazy?
I agree. I like the colored mat. I was saying like that I showed a website and stuff that we can use for that. And I was just like, it's kind of a cool idea to just like get that, you know, and you can get samples of the different colors. And I think it elevates the work in a weird way. I think that might be one of the next upcoming trends for like picture framing for sure is going to be like colored mat or fabric textures, textiles, all those types of things. I think there's going to be a big wave of that in the next little bit for interior design for sure.
Absolutely. So now let's talk about the actual piece. So this is so different for you. It looks like a painting.
It is kind of a painting.
Okay, I'm not. It's such an interesting thing because it looks simultaneously so graphic, where it looks like it almost could have been cut from various pieces, but then it also has sort of a watercolor quality to it, or like a sort of, I don't know, translucency or a blending of color. So I'm so curious about how this was made. Do you want to tell me, or do I just watch your video?
So yeah, you have to go watch it. For this one, it's actually a ceiling medallion. So basically, I used to live in an old house, and as we were talking about, I love like even around your doorways, like you have all these like nice like elements to it. And I used to live in a house that had all these beautiful ceiling medallions. I kind of got the idea that I could make one of those myself, and so I was thinking like on the ceiling, like something like like a ceiling medallion. And I always had one in my house that I always wanted to paint, and I didn't get to do it because it's obviously not my house. I was renting.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you know what? Now that we have that option, like why not like go buy like one myself? So when we were thrifting, I was looking for one. I didn't really say it in the video. I was trying to be a little sneaky, but I couldn't find one, and I couldn't find anything else that I found really interesting. So I actually ended up ordering this one off Amazon, which is kind of hilarious too. So it's actually just like a foam one. It's not like faster, I guess. And I wanted to go through the idea of like modern worship, I guess, was kind of the idea. I was going back to my Thailand trip where I saw temples and they were all about like modern worship, like Pokemon and like Yu-Gi-Oh! And like all these kind of funny things. And I was like, what could we kind of bring into that? And then I saw these Renaissance books and I was just like, there's so much going on here, but I ended up using like women and fruits. So I think like it's kind of, so they're all like little pieces, I guess. So half of it is painted on the back, obviously, like the plaster is painted.
Right.
Gold leaf and some just like normal acrylic paints. And then I was able to collage on it and then seal that. And then I also put like a UV spray just in case, because it'll be near a light bulb, obviously, once it goes up. So yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. You're right. It's funny when you said Renaissance, it really does read as this sort of like Sistine Chapel, like, or even like Hieronymus Bosch kind of vibes. I don't know. There's something about it that feels like the incorporation of the fruit and the women is so sensual, but it also has that sort of with the blue, the light blue background. It has that sky kind of floating angels, religious art kind of feeling, which is like very cool.
And I know you just went to Italy, so I know you've seen a lot of that.
I have, but I don't know. I've been so inspired by my Italy trip lately. And so I don't know. It's just like at the front of mind. And I think this is so, what an amazing way. Like, so what kind of light fixtures is going with?
I'm not sure yet because there isn't one in this room, but I have one in the kitchen. So I was wondering I might just put it on the ceiling for now and then maybe get one that like it's like a fake one because we don't really have one and we have like a modern place, right? So it's like I think we'll have to get like, you know, one of those like plug up fake like light fixtures, but I think in the studio would be pretty cool to have that there.
I think that's awesome. People in the comments weigh in on what kind of light fixture Leah needs in her space. I have thoughts. I'm sure you do too. I'm thinking like, I don't know, it could work with like sort of like a vintagey like gold chandelier, but it also could work with something quite modern as well. I like to play with like the juxtaposition of these like more, like something about this is very like opulent and traditional and like, but also sort of kitschy. And so I think that something really modern could be really cool as well. So
yeah,
let us know in the comments.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And especially with my style, I feel like obviously my art leans vintage, but I bring in like this modern twist to it. So I feel like doing something like that. And even with this piece, I feel like it's, you know, modern in its own way, but it still brings in that like kind of old Frenchy feel is kind of what I was going for. And it's definitely more girly and that sort of thing For sure. So yeah, it's really happy with like the end product. Kind of, it definitely looks vintage, right, and that sort of thing, but definitely like in this more like campy way. That's different than my usual style too. I would definitely never use like light pinks and light blues and stuff. So I think it's like I went really girly with this one.
It is, but I like that. Again, I think that like something about that, like that seems really on brand for you, I think. Like, I don't know, there's something about that, like it pairs well with this sort of more saturated colors. So it seems like this is a good new direction for you. I like this.
Yeah, I was kind of joking. I could see myself doing like 100 more of these. Like it was really fun to do, and I feel like it was like a very challenging. And even like I haven't been doing too much painting in the studio. Obviously, like I've been very hardcore at collage, so it was nice to like pull out the paintbrushes again. And
this was so exciting. I feel like, I don't know, it's always a joy to work with you on these little collabs because it like pushes me to do things that are very different. And I feel like sometimes it's hard to get feedback on your work or to feel like you're being pushed. And so I don't know, for me, this is like a great experience of like, I don't know, going in a new direction and finding a new part of what I'm trying to do, you know?
I couldn't agree more. And yeah, I'm definitely like more interested now in doing like more DIY stuff. Like I think like obviously in the past I did the vase and now I did the clock as well. And now I've done the ceiling medallion. So I'm like, what is the next project? I was kind of joking. A little lampshade could be really cool with collage, or, you know, like it's just like, I feel like the possibilities are so endless on what you can collage in the house. And even having artworks that are like domestic a lot of the time, like a lot of my pieces kind of talk about like the domestic woman and stuff. I think that like it's a kind of a fun idea to play into that. And yeah, I'm just like really thinking about now like all the cool possibilities that could come of that. And yeah, this is why I love collaboration too, right? Like it kind of pushes you out of your own comfort zone.
Absolutely. So just so everyone knows, we are going to be on a live next Thursday. And so we'll continue to discuss these things. We'll talk about Leah's light fixture, what will go with her new ceiling medallion. I'm actually interested. I don't know if you feel like doing this, Leah, on that live, but maybe I can show you what I was going to make as the third piece and some elements of it. And if you have any thoughts or ideas, it's funny. Your voice was in my head about like, sometimes in your videos, you'll have some things that are put together and then you're like, no, I need to go and look for new images. I need to like go back to the magazines and find new stuff to like make this work. And I feel like that's where I am. And so I'm not sure. I just would love your advice on where to go from there, because I think this other piece is going to be good, but I just don't have all the pieces together yet. So maybe we can weigh on that. Maybe you can weigh in on that a little bit as well.
For sure. Yeah. And then we can ask questions. Like if people want to leave comments below, for sure, we can definitely talk about interior design. We can talk about art. I feel like there's so much we could talk about. Even before this call, we were just like talking so much because we have so much to talk about areas. So yeah, I feel like if you guys have questions, leave them below. I'll also put a post and then we can collect them and kind of just run through them. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of great content on that. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. Well, we'll see you later then.
Yeah. See ya. Bye.